Alright guys, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about paying taxes on your dividends. Dividends are payouts from the company to its shareholders. Many companies decide to reward their shareholders by giving them a dividend every quarter. Dividends are either taxed as normal income, which is known as short-term capital gains tax. This is the higher rate and the one we want to try to avoid. Or our dividends can be taxed at the long-term capital gains rate. This is the same rate you would receive if you sold a stock after owning it for 1 year. We want to ensure that all of our dividends are being taxed at the long-term capital gains rate and not the short-term. Alright, so here's the long-term capital gains tax brackets. And you can see that if the dividend is qualified and you are a single making $40,400, you won't pay any tax on the dividends you receive. If you make between $40,401 and $445,850, you'll be taxed at a 15% rate. And above that, it'll be 20%. Now I'll show you what the short-term capital gains tax brackets look like. These are also known as your income tax brackets. If your dividend was unqualified and you made $40,400, you'd be paying a hefty 22% tax on your dividends, and as much as 37% if you made $445,850. It's an important thing to point out that when we look at the long-term capital gains tax brackets, those income levels include money you would receive from your dividends. So if you look at the first bracket, you have to make $40,400 or less to receive that 0% on your dividends. That $40,400 is your income with your dividends. If you made $40,400 and made a couple $1,000s from dividends, you'd then be pushed into the next bracket, and those dividends would then be taxed at a 15% rate. When differentiating between which tax you would have to pay on your dividends, the IRS labels the different dividends as qualified or unqualified. Unqualified can also be referred to as an ordinary dividend. A qualified dividend is taxed at the long-term capital gains tax rate, while an unqualified or an ordinary dividend is taxed as regular income, also known as short-term capital gains tax. Alright, so how do we ensure that our dividends are considered qualified dividends? The time period that is needed for a dividend to be considered qualified is very confusing. The IRS explains it like this. If you own the security for more than 60 days during the 121-day period that began 60 days before the ex-dividend date. I'm going to hopefully make this less confusing by looking at Apple's dividend. Okay, so Apple's next ex-dividend date is May 6th. That means if you want to receive Apple's dividend, you have to own shares in the company before that May 6th deadline. We want to ensure that the dividend is considered qualified. So that means we need to own shares for more than 60 days during the 121-day period that started 60 days prior to the ex-dividend date. So this makes the 121-day period start on March 7th and end on July 6th. For 60 of those days in that 121-day period, you would need to have owned Apple stock if you want the dividend to be considered qualified. All you really need to know is that if you're buying companies from a US stock exchange and are holding them for the long term, your dividends will be considered qualified and you'll be paying that long-term capital gains tax rate. If you have any questions about any of this, please leave it in the comments below and I'll do my best to give you an answer. There are a few exceptions, and the most common has to do with REITs, also known as real estate investment trusts. These are companies that own tons of land and then lease it to big corporations. They are obligated to pay out 90% of their income in the form of dividends back to shareholders. So any dividend received from a real estate investment trust is taxed as ordinary income. I will put some other common exceptions on the screen that I won't go through. If you wanted to completely avoid paying taxes on your dividends, you should definitely buy dividend producing assets and then place them into a tax sheltered retirement account. I did an entire video on IRAs, which I'll leave right here for you. If you're interested, definitely check that out. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.